Morning, everybody. Today's State of the Industry update is going to be exclusively about PyTorch. So I woke up and checked the news, and the first thing I saw was that Meta was, or previously known as Facebook, was moving PyTorch over to the Linux Foundation. And so basically, and the links will be up down in the comments. Here's their blog post where they announced it. There's plenty of other articles where they talk about it. So basically, what's happened is PyTorch is moving from Meta's governance to the Linux Foundation's governance. And there's so here's the homepage for the PyTorch Foundation, which was just created. So this gives you a little bit more information about what it is, but it's got a very simple charter. They're democratizing state-of-the-art tools. It's pretty boilerplate. All the members, you see that it's not just Meta. There's Microsoft, NVIDIA, Google, AWS. And so one thing that you might think is, okay, a lot of these are competitors. Why are they working together? And I am reminded of the United States rail system. So in the early days of the Industrial Revolution, there were different size of rails. There was different standards for trains. And so you'd have track widths and track dimensions and train dimensions, and you'd have trains that could only run on certain rails, and that was no good. So what happened is all of the different rail companies got together and said, we need to pick a standard. And there are still places in the world where there are different size rails, and it causes all kinds of problems. And so that continues today, though. So I actually, almost 10 years ago now, maybe about 10 years ago, I interviewed at a company that runs the software that organizes all the railways in America today. And this company is created and maintained just like this by all the rail companies. And so this is the signaling software that is used to make sure that no trains run into each other. And so when you have a large ecosystem, it behooves all the companies participating in that ecosystem to collaborate to make sure that they use the same standards. And so while it might not be quite intuitive at first, the fact that all these different companies can contribute to this tool set, because that's what PyTorch is. PyTorch is a tool set that allows you to create deep neural networks fast and efficiently. It behooves them to work together because then they're going to get better tools and they're going to get standards. And so what does that mean? Well, one, that means that a model built by Meta might be useful to Amazon or Microsoft or NVIDIA, but also it has to do with employees. So one thing that can happen is, and this is true whenever there's a niche or niche technology. I used to say niche, but then someone taught me to say niche, and that sounds better because it sounds French. So niche technology where there's only like a handful of people that know it, and Google is the only one who needs it, right? So then they can't find anyone to hire to use that technology. Well, by making technologies more standard, and this happens in cycles. This has happened in the technology sphere since before my career. I think it's been going on forever. But basically, the industry will start with a shotgun method, right? Where when you've got a new blue field or blue ocean exploration, there's going to be hundreds of different tools, and only a few people know each one. But then eventually, one of those will emerge as the dominant tool. And for the longest time, I thought it was going to be TensorFlow and Keras, but it looks like PyTorch is the one that is emerging. That doesn't mean that it's going to go away. It just means that one is going to be more popular. The same thing happened with Python. Just before I started my career, Python 2 was just becoming like a big thing. There's actually an XKCD. Let's see, XKCD Python can do. Yeah, you see, I searched for this. How old is this? Yeah, so Python, you can do anything with Python. Where's the date for this? I wish I knew how old it was. But this comic is like 13 plus years old. And so this was like, people were just discovering how awesome Python was 13 to 15 years ago, and now it is standard. And so what you see is like you've got TensorFlow, Keras, FastAI, CAF, OpenCV. All of these are kind of like aging and falling by the wayside in favor of TensorFlow and PyTorch. And so this move to move PyTorch to the Linux Foundation is going to ensure that it takes its place among open source tools like Python, like Linux. So I would not be surprised if PyTorch is like the status quo moving forward in terms of deep learning. So a little bit more about PyTorch. It's up on PyPI. So you just pip install torch. That's how it goes. They do it. Somewhere on here I saw that it recommends GPU. Like that's really what it was built for, was GPU acceleration. They have a hub, just like TensorFlow has their hub. So what that means is that with PyTorch Hub, you can just download pre-trained models. You don't need to train them yourself. Which this is one thing that makes this ecosystem all the better. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know that I am a big fan of Google's Universal Sentence Encoder, and they have lots of models up here. Like they have, obviously TensorFlow Hub has way more models than PyTorch Hub, which only has 48. But still, it's not a matter of quantity; it's a matter of quality. And that's not to say that Google couldn't make a comeback, because Google has, they basically launched the modern transformer, not war, but like cascade with technologies like the universal sentence encoder, because that is half of the transformer. The other half came later. And, with BERT, they've revolutionized search, and all sorts of other things. And this is just with the text models. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but it is an interesting move, and it certainly increases the chances that PyTorch is going to be the universal standard for deep learning within a few years. So anyways, that's my State of the Industry update for this morning. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and consider supporting me on Patreon. Have a good one.